Crushing those workouts in the morning, huh?
We not.
Crushing those workouts in the morning, huh?
We not so much morning, but yeah,
Oh,
10 a.m.
well, geez Louise, that's lunchtime.
Dude, that's almost bedtime for me.
Yeah, right.
I get up and go right back to sleep.
Yeah, that for me these days is that's dinner time. That's my bedtime. Well, I don't know.
Right?
It's
All right,
great.
we're recording, right?
We are live.
Perfect.
We are recording.
So today, I think what you did last time was great too. I mean, you've known me through this process. So, there's not a lot I need to tell you about, the whole idea that you teach, consistency in the process and learning something, attempting it on yourself, and then something, you've seen me do is learn it, apply it to myself, and then see if it is transferable, see if I can make this work on somebody else from health and fitness world.
Sure.
But I imagine that kind of goes with a lot of things. If you're teaching somebody how to sell or somebody how to control their mind in certain situations, like I know that, one thing that Nick has told me about over and over again with you is how you've set him up, how to control himself when he's in a meeting and it's not going the way he wants. Because I could see he's a little firecracker. And right. And I could see also that he's at a position like maybe not as well as Steve Siegel is, where Steve would say, well, I don't like something. Either he sues or walks away from it, but he's ridiculous money. So that's a different realm. And it's just a person that won't cave, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
Or negotiate or whatever. If it isn't his way, it's no way. So,
right.
But if you want to go into anything about how we're trying, how we're dealing with things that in the process of right now, how to change, how to adapt, That's great. And then something I said on the message, because there probably won't be any couples going up there. And obviously, I'm a health and fitness guy relative to the people that are talking that day, not outside of you in the sense of it.
Sure. That's your craft. It's your craft. It's your profession. It's your passion. It's your mission.
You said something that was great when you guys came over to stay at the house. And I'm like, all right, you're set. I'm off to bed. No wavering. You know, I just stay. And it's not like, it's just, that's me.
And it's a great example. It's a story of being there, and people like stories. I tell it all the time. Looking over, I go to Mona, where's Mike? He's in bed. And so, you know, the first reaction would be, wait a minute, you know, I'm company. And listen, Mike treated me great. Been a friend for 32 years. Relentless. And that's the piece, is being unwavering. And what you find out is you find out people that understand it and those that don't. And you get to choose. I mean, that's the piece.
I love it.
So no, I feel good. I know where I'm going to go. What do we got? How long you and I get? 30, 40?
We can go as long as you feel good, and then we can pull Mona in and talk about if you got some aspects on that about. For me, that unwavering, it had to be an individual that was, I guess, similar, or that would raise me up. Someone that would come in and say, willing to do this, but I'm a beast too, in a sense. I don't know how you would do that, because Mona's such a unique female, where she doesn't need to be, we all need to be catered to and loved and stuff. I'm not saying that, but she's just a different person, to where she don't play around, you know?
Well, I think the thing with you two is that interdependence is what we all strive for. And the challenge for people, and that's the highest form, you've got independent and dependent, and those have their levels of unhealthiness. And the highest level of healthiness is interdependence. How have you taken two very strong, independent people and created an interdependent, healthy environment?
I love it. I'm ready to go, man. Let's leave this off by you.
I'm going to introduce. Okay. Let's see. Get myself in my space. Simple solves the complex, and everything big is built on the back of micro commitments. And I am here with a friend for over 32 years, with my great friend, Mike O'Hearn, who is one of the all-time most recognized fitness icons. And, you know, a lot of times when, you know, Mike comes forward, is interviewed, or, you know, people ask about him, and, you know, it's talk to me about the fitness industry. And I know that over his travels and impacting people throughout the world, if people have taken the time, they've come to understand that everything that Mike has built that is big and continues to expand and impact more people around the world is universal. And so what really excites me, whether you're someone that's in business, and I think a lot of the people that are watching this interview today, Mike, are mostly business people, you know, as Ryan's got his environment and he's growing businesses. But the really neat thing that we love about Ryan, though, too, is he's impacting lives. As Mike and I have a discussion today, certainly, again, I've known him for many, many years, but what I know is, and I want to really encourage y'all to look at, and underneath is the principles that Mike is going to share with you in how he's progressed through his life and where he's at in current space and time will impact every area of your life, personally, professionally. You take these principles back into business and apply them, you're going to find that it's going to be super helpful. Because the one thing that I know is that we can all have strategies, tactics, skills, but what we ultimately know is the most committed win. So with that said, Mike, it's good to hang out, brother.
I love it, kid. I wish I could be there in person with you, hanging, but we're in lockdown.
Yeah, it might be a while for Vegas. Vegas is going to be an interesting ride through this.
Oh. Brother, I have to ask right off the bat, how are you getting your workouts in?
My courtyard here, I've got a bench, and I've got dumbbells, and I've got bands, and our good wonderful mutual friend, Clark, has a home gym being shipped over to me. So we're going to put a gym in the garage. So that's supposed to happen any day, man.
I was going to say, man, because I know you're as sick when it comes to training as I am. And so I know that is our meditation time. So I was curious about that.
Yeah, I'm getting it done. So, well, in the current space and time of us sitting here together, I think it's, it's ironic because it's a complex time. And there's a lot of unknown, there's a lot of uncertainty. And if people really look, as I mentioned in the beginning, certainly people see it as a fitness icon, but there's just so much more depth to it, I think that what people are going to find is that the way that you have moved through your life and the routines and the disciplines and the thing of being unwavering is in focusing on what you control. And there's a lot of things that we don't control we've got here. And so what I want to really dig into and hopefully people can, bridge the gap from where we're at right now and what we're traveling through with the current circumstances, but also, looking at business life and personal life. Let's go back to the beginning because I think the most resounding thing is consistency and commitment and discipline, overused, but I don't know that there's anyone that's demonstrated that more than you. Take us back to the beginning. And first of all, everyone's always curious, what was it that really, lit you up around the fitness environment and, the working out and then certainly the evolution of it. What was it, at what point in your life did that really just strike a chord with you and that's right where you were going to go?
I think it definitely struck a chord with me when I was actually 9 years old, very, very young. And I followed in the footsteps of my brothers and sisters that all did sports, like the youngest in the family. I watched my brothers and sisters do martial arts and powerlifting and bodybuilding. And so I just took to the weightlifting and training at that time. But in a short period of time, I realized I was pretty good at it. And by 13, 14 years old, I started competing and started winning at that time. And I was winning against 19-year-olds. So I realized at that time, and looking at the magazines and watching everything and seeing how my brothers and sisters and how my mom and dad lived working 9 to 5, I realized, hey, man, if I can make a living doing whatever this is and seeing the guys in the magazines, that's how I'd like to make a living. That would be a cool thing to be able to train and do photo shoots on the beach with beautiful women all day and get paid for it. So I took to it at a very, very young age. And the true aspect behind it was watching my parents and my brothers and sisters train and do martial arts. And on the other side of it, that really said, that scared me, I guess you would say, is I was diagnosed with dyslexia at a young age. So I couldn't read and write very well. And as at that young age, you're like, holy shnikes, this is not a good thing. And by the teasing and the self-doubt I put on myself, I really focused on the athletic part of it and said, okay, if I'm not doing good over here, I really got to do good over here to make a living or a life for myself. And I did that at such a young age that I just committed to it. And it just took day to day, day in and day out, I just stayed with it. And even though I overcame the reading and writing and that nervousness of getting on stage, because that's all I do now, is I stayed true to that one passion that just fired me up at such a young age.
So you talked about winning and when we're winning, and not saying anyone's a loser, but when there's a winner, there's people that lose and there's people that fall off and people abandon. If you were to look at, because over time, we've talked about this a lot, is as time, and we'll talk about longevity, which is that's your foundational principle right there, is longevity. People see the weightlifting and nutrition, this and that, but there's a purpose in its longevity. The people that stayed, what's the one difference maker between maybe the people that not only just win, but they continue to win and and don't fall off and continue to grow. If you were to look back from, the beginning times and through time to where you're at in current space and time, what's the difference between those two people and yourself? Because you have sustained it and continued to grow and expand over the years.
Yeah, that's a great question. Winning let's take winning outside of just winning the contest, because that's just a show. And that really, I know more guys that lose shows and get better with time than the guys that all win. And so it's the losing that creates the champion. For me, and from what I've seen over 40 years of being in the health and fitness world, the guys that have the struggle, the guys that it's not handed to, the guys that had to go through a battle, those are the guys that do it for a different reason, I think. I won at life, but I wasn't gifted everything. I couldn't read or write. I couldn't do well in school, which is a huge thing.
Right.
So to be able to build something and create a business that outlasted anybody else that did it in the health and fitness world for as long as I did, it wasn't because I won the shows. It's because winning the show was nice and that was great and everything, but it was the struggle to get there and know that I had some downsides to it. And a chip on the shoulder, to me, is a great thing to have. I know people say, well, it's in the past, however you grew up is however you grew up. If you use it in the right way, a chip on the shoulder could be a great thing. And even though I won, it wasn't the win. It didn't matter to me. I wanted to keep going. I wanted to go harder. I talk about a story when I won the universe the first time. I went backstage and I said to my training partners, next year I can be better. And they look at me and go, dude, you just won the universe. Take 10 minutes to enjoy this or something. And I was already thinking about the next thing. I was already okay, this is what I need to do, but now let's keep going. Let's take it to another level. So it's the struggles. And I know that we're going through something right now that's never been seen before, really. And I understand it's tough, but we got to adapt to this and we got to change and we got to make things happen in different ways. And for me and my business, I had to adapt and change it up and go to principles that are not the greatest in the sense of the best exercise, but it's the best that we can do right now. And I will take the guy that's consistent and does something over the guy that just throws the towel in.
Talk about the thing that, and I think that this will really resonate with people because competition's healthy and everything has its duality. And you talk about a chip on your shoulder, but I know in watching you and anyone that's observed you, what's very interesting is a chip and ego can be healthy and it can be unhealthy. But one of the things that I've watched you do over the years is you bring in anyone and everyone, no matter at what level they are. You have this abundant, open spirit where you'll bring in the world's strongest men. I don't even know all the titles. So I just know that I see super athletes, superhumans with you. And the one thing that I capture in observing it and being around it is there's no ego when it takes place. How have you found the ability to perform at the absolute highest level, demand the most out of yourself, keep that competitive fire, yet be supportive and have empowering relationships in situations where most people think, I need to compete against that person. I'm against that person. If that makes sense.
It does to me. Let me see if I can express it to what you're saying. You've seen me compete against in training and stuff with the Hall of Fame best UFC fighters. You've seen me go against the world's strongest men, currently the world's strongest men. And this is me at my age now, not when I was 25 or something. You've seen me go against NFL football players and current NFL football players and the biggest bodybuilders and powerlifters in the world. So I think the hugest thing there is we do have egos. We do want to win, but we want the best fight possible. And I think that's the biggest thing for us. That's why it's fun to tussle with the current world's strongest man and beat him in an exercise. And then he beats me in an exercise. I'm like, that's fun. That's fun for me. And the ego is that I need to win. And when I'm in that set, I'm giving it everything I freaking got. And I'll go until the wheels come off. That's my mentality. But I want to make sure that he's there and he gives me everything he's got. And I want him to try to beat me, because if he tries to beat me and he does beat me, then I'm going to come back and do the same thing. But that has to do with anything and everything in life for how I live. I love to go against the best, or be around the best, or discuss with the very, very best, because it raises your game. It really does. There's days you can go in solo and you can tinker around the gym a bit. But if you got the world's strongest man there going against you, you're in a fight, and it just changes the whole thing. It goes from a workout to a battle, and you as a person become a better person. And I take those kind of steps. And so the chip on the shoulder is a great thing for me to have, and the ego is a great thing to have, as long as my ego doesn't go to the point where I'm better than everybody else, in the sense of that I think I'm superior as a human, in a sense. I think that's the difference, where people think the ego is what they think that's only the ego. No, the ego can go either way. The ego can be, I want to be the best. Right? I believe I can be the very best here today, and I'm going to fight to be the very best. And that's me not giving up. And it doesn't matter. I don't want to be the guy, and I never will be the guy to go, hey, I look good for 30. I look good for 40. No. I want to be that 1%. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just your drive within yourself to go, I want to create this. I don't want to be average. And yes, if they say that's ego, that is ego. And you want to be good. You want to be the best. I want to be the very best now, because I got a little boy for the first time in my life. I have a son, and I want to be a freak for this kid when he grows up. So I think keep the ego in check, in the sense of you're not better than everybody else. And you have room to learn from any individual. And not a superior person, but just you believe in what you can do and you want to be the very best. That's the ego that I like.
How about people that have either plateaued or fallen off? Because we've talked about this before too. People that have inspired you, and I know have had a lifelong impact on you, and you always acknowledge them. But what do you think the difference is in that sustainability and then continuing to expand versus people that, they had their time, right? They had their time, and then, they just went along the wayside, and very few continue on that trajectory. What do you think the difference is there?
I think that's the difference between, if you want to be the very best, the number one in the 7.5 billion people of something. This is what's on the earth, 7.5 billion people. And you want to be the number one guy in the world for that. You might have to push that body past what is healthy. You might have to push it past what is beneficial for the long run. And I think when it comes to that, those individuals just have the passion for the one time, and they feel good about hitting it and then being done with that. And for me, my first goal early on, because I started modeling and doing all this stuff and the magazines by 17. And I remember I was told early on, well, that's great, this is fine, but you can't do this forever. You got about 10 years and that's about it. They're not going to want you on the covers at 35, 40 years old, 50 years old. You're done. And so I said, well, what is better? To be 100% in one thing and 30% in the other. In the health and fitness world, that would be strength compared to visually how you look. And the one thing I realized is that I said balance for me would be the best. I want to be at 75 and 75. That means I'd be okay with my body being at 75% the very best, and strength at 75 at the very best, instead of the 100 on the one side or the other side. And that balance allowed me to do something that nobody's ever done before in the history of health and fitness. And that allowed me to keep a healthy physique for now 37 years, 38 years, and not just be healthy and stuff like that, but actually be on the covers of the magazines for the body. Most guys have 10 to 15 years for the guys that did it for a long period of time where their bodies were peaked. And so I think the understanding that I can outlast everybody if I am at that strength and the body is at that level at all time that will create something. And I didn't know at that time what I was doing and discovering, but the creation of my training methods created something different. There's a thing called Wolf's Law, where it's the basically becoming a superhero because of the breakdown of the bones. So your bones become stronger than the average person. The same thing with the connective tissue. It comes stronger than the average person. And by my training methods and everything, it became something different. So the actual body became superhuman in a sense, which is a crazy thing because I didn't understand it at that young age. And now we only understand it in the last 20 years. And that is why I'm still able to move the weights that I do. And that's why I'm able to keep the physique that I have. And it came off of being humble that my process would take longer than everybody else's. But I would outlast them by consistency relative to just running to the finish line and saying, that's it. Does that make sense to you?
100%. Let's get underneath it because it's perfect. Power building. Here it is. It's your thing. And it just didn't happen overnight. It just didn't happen well, I'm a power lifter. I'm a bodybuilder. And you're someone that's not going to put something out there or say something without substance behind it. So power building is something that's built over time. Talk about how that evolved from exploration, your curiosity, your learning, application, and testing. Because sure, this is it doesn't matter, what type of business it is or whatever goal you're shooting for, there's a process that gets to this outcome. And not that you've stopped, but here we are in power building. Take us back to the beginning because everyone's trying to build something. How did you build that?
It's an amazing thing that it started out because of innocence and ignorance. And I say this carefully so you guys fully understand this because this will be the business people. If you're in a room of multi-millionaires, you're going to have a different mindset or you're going to have different discussions. And the one thing I always talk about is that I don't want to see a guy on stage talking about how to be a millionaire because he got there one time and now he lives in an apartment. Right? V-dub bug, and he's out there telling you, this is how you do it. I'm going to give you the techniques. Boom. No, I want the guy that made the million and made more, maybe lost it, made it back, and built up an empire, but understands it. That's a person that's actually done it and lives it. And those kind of conversations, and why I want to give you this prelude to what I learned, is that I can think everybody here can understand being in a room with those many people that are millionaires and they have a different mindset and they have a protocol that they do. Maybe it's they think outside the box more. Whatever it is, there's something there. And I was lucky enough to be in a gym and raised by the greatest lifters in the world. Now, I didn't know this. I was too young to know they were the greatest in the world. I'm 11, 12, 13, 14 years old. I was just ignorant. But I did know this. I know how they were strong, these power lifters. I wanted to be that strong, but I didn't want to look like that. I wanted to look like the bodybuilders that were at the gym. And so as that young kid, I said, hey guys, yeah, you're strong, but you don't look good. Kids are honest. I want to look like that. And these guys were like, well, nobody's ever done that. And I'm like, well, I'm going to be the first. Your little 13-year-old kid going, I'm going to be the first guy to do that. And then so it's being around the elite with no opinion of myself, knowing what is possible and what is not possible. Because if you're stuck in a room and you're sitting there go, well, this is all that's possible. You go to a gym that a guy's only squatting 315, that's the strongest guy in your gym. That's your pinnacle. That's your ceiling. And for me as a kid, my ceiling was a guy squatting 1,000 pounds. My ceiling was looking at a guy that was muscular and huge. And so my innocence of going, I can do this, never changed. It never changed for the world. Even though the experts said it's not possible, I kept saying to myself, oh no, I'll be the first. I'll be the first. And I think that's where power bodybuilding really came from. The idea that I could do something nobody else has ever done. And at that point, nobody else had done it. And what was discovered during the process of this whole thing of my journey is that what it does to the body, where the majority of society, if you say heavy weights, they say you're going to get injured. Where now the body understands in science, and everything that I do goes back to the science, is that the body adapts to the pressure it's put under. So because I put my body under pressure throughout my whole entire life, it adapted to that. It's a beautiful thing. It adapted to that kind of strength. And so no matter what happens now, I can still walk under a 600 squat and squat 600 pounds, no matter that I'm 50. And the bones are healthy and the spine is healthy and everything is functional on my body because it adapted to that heavier weight. So that's where it really started, from the innocence of believing I can do it and not listening to the people that would say you can't do it, which is an amazing thing. And I know that adapts to business because there's so many people out that are listening going, I get all my people around me, my families, my wife, whoever it is saying you can't do this. You got to be the one guy who says, no, I can do this.
What do you think? Because here's the neat thing for you is you're doing something that we all strive for. You're running a very good business. You've done well for yourself financially over the years, and you've got that combination that I want to be healthy and I want to be financially in a healthy place. And you have both of those going on. Because the neat thing is you're having CEOs, high-level executives that have really gravitated to you and working with you. And we're seeing them get that balance. Balance is a tough term, what is balance? But they're finding the rhythm with those. They're seeing the importance of it. But most of society doesn't. In your experiences looking at people that make a ton of money, but they just can't get their arms around that health situation. What do you think that's about?
It's a tough one because sooner or later they come to me. That's the one thing. You can be a multimillionaire, but if you are not healthy, you realize the one commodity that you can't control or buy, you're losing. Longevity is not how long you live. It's how well you move during that time that you're living. And think about that. You think about all the guys that are out there hustling and bustling because they think the number is the wealth. You know as well as I do, we're around a lot of guys that are freaking successful, well off, and they have taken more to health and fitness in their 40s, more than ever, and 50s. And so, but they try to get it earlier. Most of the guys I know, they go right to it and go, oh, hey, I'm 40 now. And I realize, yeah, I got the finance, but unless I'm healthy in 10, 20, can't enjoy it. And so I think the mindset here is this. We do know we have to give up a lot if we want to be the greatest in something. There's a whole section we have to cut out of our lives and accept that. I chose that early on. I chose that and I said, I am so cool with not partying and playing and going out. And I'm okay going to bed at 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, waking up 8 o'clock at night, getting up early to train every single day. I was okay with that because I knew what it gave me. It gave me a life that I never had to work for the man. By 22, I was set. And that's just because of the TV shows and the training, but it's because not what I got at that point. It's for that, 13 years before that commitment that I gave to it is what got me to the level where I was okay in the sense of finance. So you're going to give up a lot trying to be successful. We know that. You're not really giving up unless you're taking time away from family in the sense. That's a tough thing. And we go back to what you said earlier on. You said balance. What is balance? For everybody, it's a little different. But at some point, you realize the biggest wealth is health by far. And I think we understand that right now more than ever because everybody's in lockdown and everybody's probably eating a little bit more, getting a little bit more sluggish, freaking out about life. And so that stress, cortisol makes you even gain more weight. And so people are even freaking out even more. Health is the number one thing. We can make all the money in the world.
I want to point out something that, and I experienced it firsthand. We were joking about this before I got on, but I think that what I hope people get, and we've heard these cliches before: minimize to maximize, less is more, surrender. You can gain all the knowledge and skill sets, a new way of doing things, but the only way that more can come in is if you surrender and just let go of those things of the past. I was tell everyone the story. I was over come over to Mike's a bunch and visit and stay. And I think one time I was there and spend the night, and I said to Nona, "Where's Mike?" It's like 8 o'clock. He's in bed. And you're like, your first response was, "Wow, I'm company." And Mike and I have been friends for 32 years, but I was like, "Whoa, he just went to bed." It's just unwavering. And so the thing that I hope that everyone captures is, we talk about discipline, talk about commitment, but even something like that, it is just staying true to yourself. It's, surrendering to, what, if I want this, I have to let go of that. These are the choices I have to make, and sticking to that. And I think that's the toughest thing for people is.
Yeah. I more than ever, this last 2 months has shown me something that goes to your point. Me, I live a life. I stay to that schedule. It doesn't change. But I noticed that people try to negotiate. So I want to be healthy, but I at least want to have, I want to be able to drink 3 nights a week. I want to be able to go and do this kind of meal, this kind of meal, this kind of meal. And I'm like, you probably shouldn't work with me. And I just go, no, that's not what I do. And the reason I say this is you can go back to that. You can go to your drinks. I'm not going to say to live your life without that. But what I do at first, and this is probably like what most people do, is there's a period of time where you got to give up the vices to get to where you need to be.
Yeah.
And during that time, there isn't the couple days of drinking. There isn't those couple meals out. There isn't. It is straightforward. I got a plan. 12 weeks. I'm going to stay true to this. And at the end of it, I'll be able to regulate. But right now, I need to commit to this. And there's no ifs, ands, and buts. And it doesn't matter if it gets shut down. It really doesn't. And I think, and that applies to everything that I've ever done. When it comes to health and fitness, it comes to real estate, comes to traveling, comes to having a baby, comes to all those kind of things. There's a period of time where I got to commit to it. There's no wavering. There's no cheating in a sense. On the nutrition, the training, the time, the commitment, and stay true to it.
I'm going to give you an either or. So,
love it.
Have you traveled around the world and will continue to, impacting people's lives? Have you impacted people more in their head and their heart, or do you think you've impacted them more physically?
100% in their minds. Which occurred to me later in my life. Later in my life, it occurred to me because it was at expos. Dude, you're strong, you're big, wow, love it, you won Mr. Universe, great. And then something happened. I had a puppy. And I know it's just a puppy, but to me, it was something that was with me during struggling years, was also my connection to my mother and father before they both passed. And it stayed with me through a lot of ups and downs. And that puppy passed. And I let that out. And I broke. And when that happened, the support was something different. And I changed as a person. But when you went to shows and stuff, people would come up and it was the most monstrous guys too. Dude, your approach to how you lift, I can understand it now after seeing you lose your puppy. That you believe wholeheartedly in what you do and everything is truthful and everything is, you do it for yourself first. You don't try to sell something that isn't you. And you really believe in it. And you had me crying when your puppy lost. And it was the change of people, how they looked at me as well. And I think everything changed at that point. Because if you see a guy and he's lifting always heavy, the majority of society goes, oh, he's just ego lifting. Or if the guy has great abs, oh, the guy's just showing off his body. And again, you know me, I keep covered up 24/7, and I lift heavy, not for trophies or anything like that. I lift that for the battle within myself. I need that. And it's the approach that I really do live life out of the normal, even for health and fitness guys, is because I started at such a young age, and I believe just differently than most. I believe that if you love it with passion, you don't need motivation. And you're not really giving up anything to what, the cheat meals, the partying on the weekends or this or that. It's not really giving up. That's just a person's take on something that I don't believe would help me in my life and the journey I'm living in. To change that we can be champions in our 30s, in our 40s. We can get better in our 40s. We can get better in our 50s is the approach and the change to people that I've made.
I guess we walked right into it because we just got on this and said, hey, let's just, freeform it. But you hit on what I believe, because I had that moment for me about 11, 12 years ago. And I think that this can really move a ton of people, is that experience humanized you, made you relatable. And it was, we talk about transparency, that authenticity, when that happened, certainly you've always had a great following. It continues to grow. Let me ask you this. When you really opened up and showed more sides of yourself, I mean, it was sure there was that one door that opened, but it was like, whoa, here you are. Did your audience expand? Did you see it expand in a period right after that time frame or not? Did you see it change dramatically? The demographic of it change? I'm asking a whole bunch of questions in this.
No, it's all right.
Expand, contract, deeper than what it was.
I could stop you there.
Okay.
I could stop you there. Did it expand? It's a continuous growth. Great. Did it change? Yeah, it went deeper. And it also established something. When you hear things about people, or you assume something about somebody that you see on TV or something, it established the truth of who I am. And that's what made it deeper. And in that sense, the whole fan following changed within themselves, which was amazing to see. And it was a cool thing for me to see, because I didn't care how people looked at me when this happened, when I lost my puppy. And it wasn't just the loss of my puppy. She was with me for 20 years. Dogs don't live 20 years. But she was with me at such a time that it didn't matter what I said or matter what was around me. I was in pain, and I just let it out. And my girl said the house felt empty, even though the house was full of people. But that realization and that being open and being true to who you are, instead of trying to hide it and brush it off like some people, it's just a dog, move on, which some people did say, but it changed everything. It changed who I was as a person. And yes, it was the most painful thing for me, but the most blessing thing for me, because everybody honored her and me, and it changed the fans that they looked at me. And the one thing I'd say to anybody that does anything in life, if you're chasing money and fame, you're going to lose. Yeah. You're going to lose. I'm sorry. But if you're chasing money and fame, it's two things that are out of your hands. Fame comes if people even like you, or you are adaptable to whatever it is. Fame is just out of reach in a sense. And it's also something that's phony, because you got to stay true to who you are and not change for that and not chase that. But if you're doing something, real estate, making a living, creating your own empire with passion, you're golden. You'll wake up every day like I do at 3 a.m. going, let me get started. Let me rock and roll. Let me do this, where all your friends are looking at you like, you are bananas, dude. I'm having fun. And this is actual true living.
Right. Here's my final question, but I think this could take us a lot of different places. You know, we're in a challenging place right now. And it's a reality. I think the one thing we know in knowing each other, by no means ever minimizing the situation, but we're always looking for what the positive is in it. So whether someone is, we're all in this thing right now, but even before this, if someone was stuck and then here you've got this on top of it, if you were talking to someone who's stuck right now, no matter where it's at, in relationships, business, their fitness, their nutrition, what would you tell them is the number one thing to look at within themselves that they need to check? Because, you know, we can't control what's outside of us. What would you tell someone is the number one thing for them to take a look at within themselves? Whether it's getting through this or something else they were stuck in.
The number one thing that I go back to, or I recommend to people, is to change and start helping themselves with proper nutrition. I know that, so like, what does that have to do with anything? It has to do with everything. It helps with the mind. It helps with the recovery. It helps to lower stress. It helps you to put yourself in a better position to where you can make the right choices. And I know that's not anything new, but it is the foundation for health and fitness, health and longevity, and just to set your mind up and feed it correctly. This is the one thing I would go to.
Well, then I guess I have one more. I was misleading on that one, because here's my other one. Then, have you seen someone who you've spent enough time with that no matter what level of business they operate, that maybe wasn't as focused on their health and fitness? Maybe they're a little bit active and their nutrition was off. And in a year, and you were close enough to them to see the trajectory of their business, they did nothing different in their business. Maybe even possibly didn't work as much, but they became obsessed with their health and fitness. And they came back and started telling me stories 30 days, 90 days, 180 days, a year later, that their business went through the roof. You have any stories of that?
I got a couple stories of that. I'm working with the vice president over at Sony, and he was coming up on his big birthday. And he said, well, you know, I've never really been in shape since college and all this. And it took us 45 days to get him in better shape than he was in college. And his business exploded even more so because of the fact that he would show up at meetings and everybody would be like, wait, what's going on? And he'd be so hyped and stuff. And they just wanted to be around that energy, that it created more of his own business just because of his energetic personality at that point, changing his body at that stage. It just showed a character, I guess, and that boomed him up. And he was doing it just because he was hitting his birthday, and he's like, I want to try to do this for once. Another buddy of mine in Vegas out there came to me, and very successful. At the time, no kids or anything like that. We got to training, same thing, got him in better shape than he's ever been in his life. And now all he does is talk health and fitness. His business exploded so much that but he's enjoying it more because he's got the health and fitness aspect of it. Now he's got 2 kids, and he's like, okay, now I got to get in better shape. So it's a cool thing to see when somebody focuses back on the one vessel we have, our health, our bodies, and you create something. And trust me, for everybody that's listening, I am not saying create Mr. Universe body. I'm not create the strength of a power. I'm just saying healthy. And it creates a different you. And that different you creates more opportunities.
Well, and I think this puts a bow on it, is what Mike just shared with you is, and it's where we started. And I said that, you know, you've been on more fitness covers than anyone but Arnold. people have seen the physical outcome, but the bottom line is, whether you're in business, whatever part of your life, what Mike just came back to and said to us is that we seek things outside of us, and we're seeking whether it's attention or things or what have you, and wanting things to be different. But what you came back to is it all comes back to what's inside of us. That's simple. That's where every solution is.
It's an amazing thing. We're talking health and fitness, and we just bring it right back around to what it is. You're one vessel.
Awesome.
Walking into the room, enjoying it.
That's it.
Love you, brother.
Love you, man. Appreciate you.
Miss you. Proof. That was great. Johnny, nice kid. Nice.
Good.
You still keep going with Mona?
Yeah. Let me, I'm going to take a bathroom break.
Yeah, take a bathroom
break. Fire water.
Go. Let this keep filming.
Just let it go.
Yep.
Just let it go.
All right, Momo.
Oh, is that Jeff?
That's Cinnabon. Look at these biceps. Look how big his arms are getting.
You ready?
Look at this.
Ready? All right, this is my segment now.
I know they're big. So how'd you like the interview, Jeff? Good?
It was really good. Your part was great.
That's what I know is whenever I'm around Ahern and his buddies, they're always going to pick on Mike, so I'm safe. I'll be right back.
We'll take that after we're done. They picked me up I was 17 and I started bouncing at that. So it's downtown Seattle, it's all like league with all white bounces. And we'd be getting all the fights. Yeah. And me, Johnny, it's out in Vegas, another guy, and Johnny, and all of us still friends today. We got so many fights. That's all it was. They're walking in there going, I want to fight a live boy. Let's fight that boy. So, yeah, I don't know. If he's back on there, go ask him about the University of Washington.
University of Washington Huskies.
Yeah, I think you can go ask him what's this.
Yeah, UW isn't getting good press right now because their little projections on the virus, man. Everyone's making fun of them. Poor guys. Let's see.
I just tell them about the when the Huskies came in.
About
that one. Wow.
Tell them that story.
Oh, so dude, we're this was back in. I don't know. They were number one in the country. So you had Dana Hall, Joe Kelly. I mean, these were middle linebacker, All-American. Dana Hall played corner in Super Bowl 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
It was the whole crew. That team, I think there were at least 5 or 6 first-round draft picks. And one of them started, it was just a whole crew of them. One of them started freaking just getting all up in Mike. And Mike did one little freaking judo move, had the guy twisted down. And Mike was just standing over him. And he was like a little bitch on the ground yelling at his boys. And so Mike's, I mean, we're talking, these guys, they're the baddest mofos in the country. They're number one in the country. I think it was the year they beat the Miami Hurricanes, man. So he's got him held down like this with one move. And his boys are up there. And he's crying like a bitch to him. And Mike's just looking at his buddies, not saying anything, quiet. Help, help. And they're like, fuck no, I ain't got no part of that motherfucker.
Oh, shit.
Dude, it was still good. We had good times. That's when Ken Griffey used to hang up in the private office above, too. Because he was a Mariner, but he was too young to be in a bar, so he was coming in there.
Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fun stuff, man.
What's that?
Fun stuff.
Mona!
Let me tell you my story.
Get in there.
I want Mona's story.
Yeah.
I got to think about how I got to come into that one now. Let's see. Look at her, man. Jeez, Gun City.
What?
And I saw her ice cream collection too. Unbelievable. Hey, Mike, how many freaking pints of ice cream does she have? Like every flavor?
No, yeah, I do. I actually do. I love I don't eat a lot at the time, but I like to try different flavors of ice cream. I love ice cream.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. The baby's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Growing.
She's like, I mean, right? And it
Wow.
sucks because I'm being extra cautious because Lexi's health
Sure.
condition.
Yeah.
So like, I took her to get her vaccines, with the mask and gloves
Yeah,
and stuff
yeah.
because Lexi can't go in a doctor's office. But it's like every time I see her, it's like this new human.
It is.
Well, and you know what's crazy, Mona, is they were supposed to check this. I haven't told you guys this. I didn't tell Mike. I was buying a home. I was closing on my home March 19th.
Oh, wow.
Lexi and the baby were moving in before all of this hit, before it was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And the 16th, the casino shut down. The 17th, the governor shut down the state. Well, Vegas is a boom or bust town.
Yeah.
I knew it would bail. I walked away from a $25,000 earnest money.
Oh, no.
Because I was buying a house for 1.2, but I knew.
Buying a house and they had a closing on the 19th of March.
You walked away from it.
Yeah.
Yep. And people are like, you're stupid. I go, I'm stupid? No way. Because I was approved. And so I'd eat my 25 grand. I said, I'll make that back up 400 grand. Within a week, the builder called me and offered me 100 grand less. You ready for this, Mona? So that same builder sold 165 homes in March.
Wow.
It's April 15th. They've sold one.
Oh, my God. That's literally like nothing. Zero.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Another builder, Toll Brothers, which is a big builder here, they're at -1 month to date because of cancellations.
Uh-huh. Wow.
But yeah, so we were supposed to be moving together. So now I've got Lexi's not working, so I've got 2 households I'm paying for.
Oh, man.
But
a lot of people are suffering. It could be worse, But,
Mona, here's what I mean. I'm so lucky that financially, because we're doing. Oh, it's a circus. We've got video court tomorrow. We've got a restraining order on the dad and 100% custody on the father of the baby. I've had that for 90 days, and fortunately, I can take care of that financially and take care of Lexi financially. I mean, there's other people that don't even know how they're going to get through next month. So I'm lucky.
Yeah. Very, very lucky.
So
Blessed.
yes, indeed. All right. So let me see here. Here's where I'm going to go to. I think I know how I'm going to go into this one. I might go into humor with it. But I'm going to make fun of internet marketers.
There you go.
Yeah. Here's where I'm going to go. All right. I think I've got it. I'm going to have to come into it a little bit, but I want to make sure I get the introduction right. So we have all heard the internet marketer story. It seems like every single one of them were raised in a mobile home, a single wide, and all of a sudden they went through all of these experiences in life, and now they're a bajillionaire. Well, I don't know if those are true stories or it's the one story that everyone sticks to, but here's what I do have for you today is my good friend Mona is the true rags to riches story. And immigrating over to the U.S. and going from the most humble beginnings you could ever think of. And when we talk about humble beginnings, there's 2 choices we have in life. And unfortunately, most people lean on their story throughout their life to hold them back. And then there's the history that someone uses as that fuel to drive them to where Mona is today, going into the restaurant business in the financial district in New York.
Right.
A fitness icon, someone who impacts people throughout the world on a daily basis. Just a great story that didn't start in a single wide mobile home like everyone else. It is my privilege to spend some time with my friend Mona Murison. Mona, how are you?
I am great. Ah, what an introduction. I love it. I love the fact that you bring that up because you know my story, or some of my story. My story is crazy. I could write a book. But, I was very lucky fortunate to be here in America. I'm Romanian. I grew up in Transylvania. And to be here, and I think I'm living the American dream. And, I got here in 92. Gosh, I always say I look at some of my friends and even homeless people on the street and, so forth. And I feel bad for everybody, but at the same time, I'm thinking they were born here. They spoke the language. And I still have my accent because
I couldn't tell, Mona.
I didn't speak a word when I came here, and I was almost 17. It was zero English. I didn't go to school here either because I didn't have that. I wasn't that lucky, put it that way, One thing I could tell you though is that as soon as I got here, I was mentally prepared to do what I did and to become who I am today. At the age of 17, I was so mature. I was looking around me, and the 17-year-olds and the 16-year-olds looked like babies to me when I got here. That's how mature I was because of the lifestyle that I've had growing up in Romania. So, to make story short, no electricity, outdoor bathrooms. We took baths in Romania once a week, maybe, and that was in the river behind the house. But stuff like that. But that's all we knew, and we were happy. We had that, and we were so happy. We didn't know better. And then when I got here and I saw the opportunities and I saw what's here, I was hungry. I've never smoked. I've occasionally drank here, one glass of wine here and there. And remember, I grew up in a bar. I started bartending at 18 in New York City. I end up in the city working at a restaurant as a co-check girl. And then I moved from that position to the bartending position. Woo! where 6 years later, I end up buying that restaurant. It was a high-end steakhouse in the heart of the financial district in Manhattan, literally 2 blocks away from the stock exchange. Now, everybody knows who Mona is. It just happens that when you go to a restaurant and you get all this attention from the owner, which everybody wants, right? You become friends with everybody. And I loved the business. But besides that, I was the editor-in-chief for Muscle and Fitness magazine. One thing led to another. I competed at the pro level in the fitness industry. I won my shows. I end up getting the job with the magazine. I worked with numerous fitness titles, I should say, Shape magazine, Muscle and Fitness, Flex magazine. I've had really the best time, and it was hard work. But what's most important, the mental. Your head has to be in the right place. So no drinking, no smoking, never done any drugs in my life. And I've had the opportunity. I was young. I was on the streets in New York City. I mean, think about it. But here I am today. I am happy. I end up running into Mike one day. And I ran into him so hard that now we have a baby. Yeah. So
I've never heard it expressed that way, Mona. I'm never going to forget that one.
Well, I didn't think I was going to make you laugh that hard, but I'm glad that. And as you know, Titan, you met Titan now. He's huge. He's a 1-year-old looking like he's 5, acting like he's 7 already. But yeah, we're having the best time. And being on the lockdown right now, we are taking advantage of spending the quality time with the baby. We see the changes because as yourself, we travel a lot. So Mike and I, we both on the road every week usually, or every other week. And we're missing a couple of days here and there with the baby. And I was always afraid that I'm going to miss that first step. I'm like, if I'm not home when he walks, I'm going to die. And so it just, everything happens for a reason.
Sure.
We hear, we with him, he started saying his first word, and it's not dada. No, people, no, it's not. It's mama. And I rubbed that in Mike's face, and he goes, mama. And Mike says, oh, I think he's trying to say Mike. I'm like, no. Yeah, so we are having a good time, enjoying everything, but I am very lucky and very, very fortunate to be where I am today. But I did work hard for it. So
when, you know, because the restaurant bar, that was just a job, probably, I'm guessing. You didn't have a plan to go in the restaurant, or was that your passion?
I was, so I was very young, and it was easy money. Someone offered me a local job in Queens, New York at a local bar. They had no liquor license at the time. It was a social club called. And I was 17. And that's where I started working. And I worked there for a couple of years. And I just knew that I wanted more. And that was just not what I wanted to do, just working in a social club with no liquor license. So I said to myself, I'm going to go to the city and I'm going to find a restaurant that has a liquor license, that I'll be more interactive with people and meet people and, you know, make new friends and see what's out there. So I end up going to this place, Nebraska Steakhouse, that I actually bought a few years later. But it was in February, and I remember like it was yesterday, cold. I was broke. But I end up walking in, and the owner at the time said, we have a full staff. We don't need anybody. But if you like, I could offer you the coat check job. So you hang coats and you keep all your money. It's no salaries for that for the moment. I could probably give you a few bucks here and there, but hey, I was happy with anything at the time. I was so psyched I got that job. And I was making good money, Wall Street, hanging coats, believe it or not. And I did that for a couple of months. And I love people. I love talking to people. Everybody loved me. And the owner said, hey, you know, I think it would be best if you do work at the bar, because we don't have a position, but we'll make one for you. Just because everybody loves you, you're so personable, and I think it'll be good for business. And that's where I started. So I started bartending. I made great money for probably 5.5 years before I've talked to him, and we had a deal, and I took over the whole place. And it was so great that everybody that I worked with, they were my friends, but now I was their boss. So I had to keep that line, that fine line, you know, like friendship is friendship. You know, we go out, we have a drink, we go for brunch. But when it comes to business, I'm sorry, I have to turn into a businesswoman. So I did, yeah, we had to keep the schedule. And what I explained to them first, it wasn't really, they was trying to act like I was their boss. It was all about respect. You know, if they had to take time off, if they had any issues of like running late or any kind of issues, I wanted them to come to me and talk to me. And I respected everybody. I've helped everyone. I provide jobs for people that they never thought they would have a job, just because I came from that background. So I knew how important it was for somebody to get a job when they needed one bad. So I did that for a lot of people. But I just asked for respect. I said, respect me. Don't just not show up without calling or without, you know, and as long as I could get that, we're going to have a great relationship and we could run a good business. And I had my chefs work there for 17 years. All my waiters were there since the place opened up, before I even started. You know, the girls that worked at the bar, a couple of them got pregnant and married and left, but I've hired a few new girls. All my staff was there forever until I actually left. And it was so hard to leave the place. But I had to, because I moved to Los Angeles, and that type of business, when you're not there, it's a cash business. It doesn't run the same way.
No, it doesn't.
Matter. It doesn't matter who's running it. It was kind of funny because people would call up and say, hey, it's Mona at the restaurant. Is she working? Like, you develop these relationships with people that you never think that you would. And they would just come there to see me or to talk and to just sort of, and since I wasn't there, the business started decreasing. And the smart thing to do was at the time just to say, you know what, I'm not there. I made up my mind. I moved out here. I have to get rid of it. And that's what I did. And it was smart.
Well, the thing that I want to touch on, Mona, that I think that is pretty neat, it goes back to where I started, story and history. What I hope people can capture, because what I'm hearing from you is it could have been your story of struggle, but it was your history. And then what I'm hearing you say is you wanted to provide opportunities for other people.
Correct.
That was super important for you.
It was that, and it still is. Yeah. Anytime I see someone that needs help, I try to look for a way or some sort of, maybe connect them with someone that might need the help or something. It's just, I just feel that it's important to help other people if you can, of course.
But I think that too, in that though, is I think where people have a challenge is there was accountability in it. And you demanded respect in it, which helped develop them as a person though too.
Oh,
people make the mistake of helping, but really they disable people in the way they help them. There's no standard.
Oh yeah. No, I understand when you say, oh no, for sure. Listen, right. I've had that experience, but now with family, with a couple of my stepbrothers, I had that experience where you help them, but then they think that they don't have to work. So I've experienced it all, So that's once you experience certain things, now you learn, right? So when you run into any kind of problems, for me anyway, I learn from it. I never really stress about anything, and listen, life, it's up and down, right? So
yeah, right.
When you run into an issue or into a problem, I should say I'm a problem solver. I don't like to sit there and stress about it. I don't like, oh my God, what are we going to do? How are we going to fix this? No, I'm like, this is how it should be. It should get fixed. And this is how we should do it. And, and Mike always says, you're not really like stressing so much about anything. No, because I used to way back when, and it doesn't solve anything. Being stressed, it just kind of drains you and you run into the ground. Like, it doesn't do anything for you. I think that solving the problem, it's what everybody should think, when you run into any kind of issues.
When did you get into the fitness industry? When were you always really active physically from childhood?
In school in Romania, what we did, I was a runner, a long distance runner. I loved running outside. However, I stopped that for many years. So when I came to the States, my focus was on making money. So that's why I didn't even go to school, because school wasn't giving me any money, really.
Oh, it doesn't. No.
But at the same time, I didn't. You need some sort of support to send you to school, and I didn't have that. So I was money hungry, so I started working. But I started late. I started when I actually started working in the city at the restaurant. I had great hours in the financial district in a restaurant business. You were really busy for lunch, and you're really busy between 5 and 7 p.m. and then you're home by 10:30. So in a restaurant business, it's unheard of, because restaurant hours run so late.
Right.
But because we were in the financial district, it's only offices and only like business people. And once they're done and closed, it's dead. It's really nobody living in that area at the time. So we had great hours. So I said, what do I do with my extra time? Well, I said, I've been working on making money, but if you're not healthy and if you're not looking good, what is that going to really do for you? It'll do something, but you got to be happy with yourself. It's got to come from the inside, right? So I started working out, doing stuff that I didn't know what I was doing at the time. like anybody else. So I would just go to the gym and kind of use all these machines, go crazy, and try to kind of copycat. And I see one guy doing that, kind of, and I made friends with trainers, and they helped me to train. And one day, a friend of mine, she was in her 40s, she was competing, and she said, "I really think you will be a good competitor if you come and compete with me at a show." I'm like, "No, it's never gonna happen. I don't know what I'm gonna do." Like she said, "No, just come watch my show. I'm competing in 2 weeks, and if you think that you could do it, then I'll compete with you again if you're gonna make up your mind." So I went to see her show, and I said, "Hey, this is kind of cool." I fell in love with the muscle and everybody being in shape, walking around, and I was already checking out the magazines before that, looking at bodybuilding. So I said, I think I could do this. And I went to see a guy, a coach, which is a really good friend of mine to today. And he said to me, "I don't think you'll be able to do a show this year." It was May. And the first show that I was looking at, it was in July. And he said, "No, it's you got to put some muscle on for the category that you want to compete in. And, we have to do a lot of work." And he said, "Do you have any kids?" And I said, "No." He says, "Well, I think your skin is a little loose." And I'm like, "What the heck?" I was like, so I couldn't even sleep. I said, "What is he talking about? I look good," But that, I'm very competitive. So that gave me the drive to get in the gym, wake up earlier, eat the right amount of food. I wasn't eating enough, which nutrition is key. That's what everybody should concentrate first on, and then the training. But I trained, I ate the right foods. And I remember at the end of June, I went back to the same guy with my coach, and I said, "I want to see you because I really want to do the show." And he says, "All right, well, come in, let me see." I said, "I made really good improvements." And he's like, "Well, I don't know." So I got a bathing suit and my heels, and I went to see him, and he was just like, "What the heck did you do?" I said, "Just ate and worked out." And he said, How? I said, "Well, you told me I can't do it, so guess what? I will do it. Just because you say I can't." And I competed in my first show in New Jersey, and I won my first show, and I got hooked.
Wow.
So, yeah. So everything I've done through my life, that's how it was. "Oh, you can't do this, or you can't do that." "Oh, really? Watch me." And I did it, 1,000%, just because. And yeah, I got hooked, and I competed for the next few years. I turned pro within a couple of years, and I went to India and, Germany and Canada, and had a great time with some of the competitors. We became good friends. And then I started working with the magazine. So I stopped competing because it was just so weird to be the editor for a magazine and then compete on stage with the athletes that are in the magazine.
How did you move out of competition? Where was it something that you wanted to do? You'd seen something in the magazines and came forward with, "Hey, listen, I think you can do this," or did someone approach you? How did you evolve into working and having a job and operating at such a high level in that environment?
It's a weird story, but I had my restaurant, and the CEO of David Packer of the magazines, it's
Sure.
American Media. He had
Yeah.
16 titles at the time. He came in for lunch, and he sat down, and we were talking, and he said, "I've heard that you're competing." And I said, "Yeah." So we started looking at some pictures, and he said, "I really want you to be on the cover for our next issue. You look amazing." And I was like, "Oh my God, to be on the cover of a, muscle and fitness magazine, it's, I'm crazy, like a dream." And, within a couple of days, someone contacted me, and we shot the cover, and within 3 weeks, so I had 3 weeks to even get better and, to work harder. And they did really good on sales. And he was like, "We did so good." And when he was coming in, we were talking about the magazines, and I always gave him tips here and there. I said, "Hey, listen, this is what I think it's wrong, and this is what it should be right, and I would do that, and I would do this." And so we were just like talking a lot. And one day he said, you know, I think that you should work with us. And I said, me, what do you want me to do? I mean, I just have the cover. He said, no, maybe just come in and be an advisor, like kind of walk us to what's wrong and what's right. And I said, oh, I could do that. So I went in for a meeting. And after that one meeting that we had with, it was 16 editor-in-chiefs at the time, the top of the top in the world. You know, when I left there, I left with the title of being the editor-in-chief for the magazine. It was just weird. You know, I was like, they said, no, you should run the magazine. You know more than all of us. And I think why I knew more, it was because I was competing. I knew about nutrition. I knew all the athletes. I knew what I would love to see in the magazine and read about. And everything that I liked, I told them to do, and it was working. And he said, well, if you have so many ideas, and we have all the writers, we have a lot of editors that could help, you know, to put the magazine together. And that's where we started. And I worked with them for 4 years until I moved out here. And they did really well. And it was so much fun. It was fun to just, you know, just pick up the phone. And usually people email, you know, my assistants, they emailed, hey, you know, we'd like to do a feature with you. No, I was just calling up, hey, Larissa, what are you doing Sunday? Hey, I'm thinking to put you in the magazine, because I had this relationship with everybody. So I was just calling up athletes, and you know, it was a different type of a job. I never thought that I would ever work at that level with a magazine, never. And it just kind of fell on my lap, and it was working for me. I was like, wow. And I was nervous, I'm not gonna lie, but after a couple of months, once I got used to everything, I looked like I belonged there. I looked like I was there for 20 years. I was telling them all what to do, you know, it was just amazing.
Wow. So you been able to travel around the world, and, you know, you certainly have not only maintained, you can continue to get better over time. And what would you say, you know, there's this constant progression of growth that's taken place for you, and now you get to inspire other women and men, because I get to hang out, and I know the guys hang out and just, you know, are amazement of you. I mean, you're bringing energy forward to everyone. And what would you say, Mona? Because again, it's easy to, hey, I did, you know, it would have been easy to go, wow, look at my accomplishment with the restaurant. Awesome. And, you know, just kind of plateau through life. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, but then you reach for something greater. And then you move past that, and here you are. I think the greatest representation of our accomplishments is the being that's showing up here. What is it for you that has not only caused you to sustain those standards over time, but to continue to improve every aspect of your life?
The first thing I think it's very important is your circle of people. So you have to surround yourself with people that are better than you, people that are up here at a different level, so they could pull you up from what you are, because that's what I did. So if we go back and with where we started talking, I worked in Queens in a small social club, and I wanted to move out of there and expose and see what's out there, what's more there for me. And I went to Nebraska Steakhouse, and this was a different type of steakhouse. It was a high-level steakhouse. We had the top judges, lawyers, athletes, actors, you name it, coming there to eat, because everybody's going out to eat lunches, businessmen. So I surrounded myself with crowds that were like at a different level than me. And that showed me ways to become better. I've learned a lot. I sit back and listen, and then I kind of, you know, think like what's best. But if you surround yourself with the best crowd, and everybody in the room should be better than me, that's how I look at it, then it betters me. So listen, to each his own, my advice is that if you have any kind of way to make your circle small but better than you, I think that's probably going to be beneficial.
Always. In running, because we've got certainly a massive audience that's watching this, but certainly it's a lot of business folks. If you're looking at what was your biggest mistake you made in the steakhouse running that business? Or biggest learning lesson, but they're both the same, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think I should have kept better inventory of my stock. In other words, when it comes to food, we'll be talking about the steakhouse.
Yeah.
I should have kept better inventory of what was coming in and what was going out. The liquor, because you have bartenders at the bar working, and people buying drinks, and I'm not cheap. You buy 3, you get 1 free. That's
Sure.
what they do. But sometimes they give 2 free, sometimes they give 3 free, and you just kind of lose a little bit of money here, a little bit of. If I would have kept better overview for everything that was coming in, I think I would have done better for myself. So it's always, in anything you do, you have to be 100%. And you trust people, but you can't trust everybody. It has to be a little bit of a space in the trust as well. So because nobody, they're good, but it's not as good as me because they worked for me. So I've always said this. Anytime you become a boss, don't put people down, but you always, even if you're not, be smart and make believe you know more. Make believe that you're better. Make believe, even if you're not, because that's gonna probably be beneficial for them. They see that you know more. They see even if you don't. So, I've had meetings with the magazine. Hey, listen, when I walked in, I made believe that I knew more than what I knew. And yeah, I mean, I went there. I was like, oh yeah, and it was good for me, obviously. But my girls from the restaurant and people that I work with, which I'm still friends with, sometimes they call up and they say, hey, remember you said this, and you sent me to this guy and to get the job, and you said, yeah. I said, well, he said that he met you, but it wasn't really, exact. Well, I made believe that I knew that, but now you're there and you got a job, right? Yeah, okay. So that was great. Thank you for sending me. But some of my girls that work for me, they got, great jobs moving from the restaurant, medical assistants and working for lawyers through meeting people over there. So they all doing really, really good.
That's awesome. I think that in what I'm hearing, and I know this from knowing you, and you spent time with a bunch of my clients,
Yeah.
and they still talk about you. They just really, and you've impacted people's lives. You continue to, you inspire people. And Mona's name still comes up on coaching calls with some of the women clients. They're like, she's just a badass. I love her. She's amazing.
I get tagged on some of the workouts, and I
love
you do?
it.
Yeah, some of the girls. Yeah, I love that. I love to see that they actually working out, and they try to lift heavy, and they tag me in their posts. I love it.
That's so good. Well, and I think the one thing that's pretty neat is and I knowing you just had your purpose and your passion was to be the best version of you. But what you ended up being able to do, and you do to this day, is, and just like that example of these women who, just like you, great accomplishments in life and in business, yet you inspire them and motivate them. And I don't think there's anything more rewarding. I think that many people, if not everyone that's watching this, will really wants to inspire people. And I don't know if it's about being famous, but just really having an impact on people. And what suggestion would you give to people? Because I think you want to be the best version of yourself, and now here you are. Wow, I'm impacting people. If someone's listening to this today and, I just want to really impact people. Yes, we want to make money and we need to make money, and that's part of life, what makes it go round. But if you're talking to someone right now that says, I want to impact people's lives. I want to leave an impression upon them. I want to, a year later after spending time with those people, I want to have happen what you have happen where they're tagging and acknowledging me. What do you think the simplest thing is that people need to focus on to be able to have an impact on other people, as you have and continue to do?
Well, first thing first, I think that if you have a dream, I know, and you hear this a lot, don't give up or whatever that dream is. I came from nothing. I had a dream and I'm still dreaming, trust me.
Yeah.
It hasn't stopped yet, but just keep doing, you, like doing the best you can to improve yourself every day. If you go to work and if you go to let's say sell a house or whatever it might be, don't wake up with a negative thought and say, I gotta get up today and who the hell knows what's gonna happen. And no, you gotta get up and you gotta say, you know what, today I'm gonna sell this house, this is what I'm gonna do, this is where I'm gonna be, and this is how I'm gonna roll. Like, you have to be strong and positive on everything. I hate that negative thoughts. I don't listen to the news. I hate it. You have to stay positive on everything. So listen, if I could do it from this, scrawny little girl that I know English, I looked like nothing and I knew no one, and I came here and I was just like a lost child, and I just found and surrounded myself with the right people, and I pulled myself up, and look at me now. I'm here talking to you. I'm talking to everybody. It's amazing. And it's really, I'm blessed. But like I said, I did make the right decisions. I could have done so bad for myself back in the day if I didn't make the right decisions. But I made the right decisions. And sometimes we're like, well, how do I know what's right and what's wrong? You don't know, but unfortunately, this is life. It's, you have to kind of roll with the punches. And if you run into something bad, you pull yourself out of it and you move on. Don't sit there, don't stress, because nothing will change if you sit in that hole and you stress about it. You just got to step out of it and, move on. Next, what's up? What are we doing next? And it's like that with business, with life, with everything. You can't sit there and stress and, cry about stuff that sometimes can't even be changed, so.
Well, what I hear from you, Mona, as an elite performer in life and in business, and it's the common thread that I think probably everyone else is hearing right now too, is, and I've been around, you're a happy person, smiling and laughing, but never too high, never too low. It's just keeping that steadiness.
Mike could tell you, this is me.
Yeah.
Sometimes it says, I don't know if you're happy or if you're sad today. It drives me crazy, I think. I'm always like this. I'm like, I'm happy. He goes, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. Well, and then, what I think is neat, because I think many of the people here are parents, whether a father or a mother, and then there's Titan. Titan shows up in your world. And talk to me about what that experience. Because I think everyone's experience in life is different in parenting. I'm in grandparenting now. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So, first of all, I never thought I was going to have kids. And then we decided late in life, because you do have to be, first of all, financially set. I don't understand how these people have 5 kids and they have no money. That's crazy.
Right.
So that's the first thing. And then second, you have to make sure that, you have your relationship is powerful. And you know what I'm talking about. Like, you have, I grew up, my parents were divorced, and that's not what I wanted, so I definitely waited until late in life, but now we have Titan, and is so much joy. Yeah, I love spending the extra time with him now in the lockdown. Like I said, a lot of people are going crazy, and a friend of mine, I saw it on the social media. It's got 5 kids, and he said, I do love my family, but God, I need out. He says, I need out of here. Like all these kids, they drive me crazy.
Right.
I could never say that because I enjoy it. He's a handful. He's a 1-year-old, and you have to be 24/7 watching this kid. He started crawling. He's up on the table. He's here. You don't want him to get hurt. And we do have help through the day. We have someone watching him, but then it's me. And through the night, and waking up. My nights are not sleeping through. It's impossible. I wake up like 5 times. They all broken, whatever. But that's life, and I can't complain. I love it. He's a joy, and it's just amazing. It feels his little hugs, his little arms go around my neck, and it's just I forget about everything. What quarantine? I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Right.
amazing.
Well, obstacles, obstructions, and I'd wrap with this because it's you've experienced. You go back to where life started for you, and along the way there's been obstacles and obstructions, and here we are right now. People can. Yeah. We're sitting in this space, and cliche is, well, it's what you make it, and all those type of things. But you've been through.
Oh yeah.
Along the way, and we're sitting here right now, and so I think not only if there were some obstacle obstructions, some challenges prior to, but even right now, what's the best advice you would give to anyone as they experience the challenges, the frustrations, the fears, the uncertainties?
Listen, I could understand that. I don't fear because I grew up in a communist country, and this is nothing. For us, it was lines were around the block to just get a number to buy a piece of bread. It was crazy the way we grew up. So now I go to the supermarket. Yeah, there's, a line outside for 20 people or whatever. This shall pass. Trust me. And you just have to hang in there. And what they have to do, everyone, please understand, listen. Stay home. Just like if you wanted to get better, we have to follow the steps. I mean, it's no out. But I do get we get a lot of emails and people and DMs, and people are very depressed from not only just having to deal with, not being able to go out, but someone that worked out 5-6 days a week, right? So now it's at home, they have no gyms or whatever. Don't worry, your gains are not going to go anywhere. Okay?
Your gains.
Yeah. Trust me, it's not like you're this huge bodybuilder and now 2 months later you're like this skinny 100 pounds. It's not going to happen. It's muscle memory. Just do your best you can. Most important, nutrition. Stay on that. Stay active. But when it comes to being locked down, it's really a few more weeks and we'll be fine. This is not even I know, I see it. Everybody's like, oh, this is the worst of the worst. I'm like, this is nothing. This is nothing. I think just kind of follow the steps, and it's all a mental, again, it's a mental thing for me. You got to be strong and just think positive. Everybody should be like, okay, this is actually a good time. I'm getting to spend quality time with my family, cleaning my closets, cleaning my home, renovating stuff. I don't know, do stuff that you never had time to do. This is what I would advise you to, because you always say, oh, I got to do all this stuff at home. I never have any time. I'm always working. Well, there you go. There's no excuse now. So find stuff that it's going to keep you busy, and we'll be out of it and back to work, and hopefully back 100% to normal. It's going to take a little bit of time, but yeah, it'll get back.
Well, I guess that there's one more place I'll go is, you look at all of your big accomplishments, and people want something to change right now. And, you know, you look at your accomplishments in the fitness industry, you look at your accomplishments in the, not only in competing, but then as an executive level, an owner of a restaurant, just even in what you accomplished coming over as an immigrant, and now impacting people worldwide. But, you know, here's the big piece that I'd wrap up with. Was it a bunch of home runs that all of a sudden you got these massive breaks and you were looking for shortcuts? Or was it this great result that you have in your life, the great results you have from a resume? Was it just the tiny little steps doing the next right thing right? Which was it?
I think it was the tiny little steps. Because that's what I think. I'm trying to think what exactly it was. Yeah, it's everything. It's like, I guess, anything you do in life, if you take a small step towards making things better, a tiny step, like you said, and then you'll improve with that, and you do that constantly, your improvement will be here eventually, you know? So that's probably what I think.
It's always the tiny little steps.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. You're amazing. And all my great clients, and the men too. The men are kind of, they're inspired. They'll say it's secret.
I'm a little jealous, but yes. Okay.
On that note, thanks so much, Mona.
Thank you. Love you. Thank you for having me.
You bet. Bye.
Bye.
Jeff, we clipped it.
Jeff.
What up? Nice.
Jeff came again with his muscle. Go
Those
ahead.
interviews aren't easy, are they?
No.
No.
Energy.
You are amazing, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you.
Mm-hmm. You are.
You got our recordings, and you can clip them up and make them pretty for Ryan, huh?
Yeah, we'll send everything.
Jeff, I've been doing Zoom forever. What's up in my setting in Zoom where I get them side by side like that? What's the setting?
Here. Give me 1 second.